Hello, everybody. I am your host, Joshua Void, and tonight we're going to have a really good conversation. Sorry for the camera movement and everything like that. But just before we commence, I just wanted to thank everybody who's been watching our show thus far. We've already got up to 135 subscribers, and I really want to thank you, the viewer, for actually helping us get to that point. And through the content that we will be producing in the future, I really do hope that it will be towards your liking and of future viewers' likings as well. The other thing that I want to thank is our Patreon supporters, TART and Linear, for really helping us do what we love to do, which is create content for you, the viewer, and create really good conversation pieces, like the conversation piece we're going to have tonight. And now, without further ado, let us jump into the meat and potatoes of this actual conversation, or actually this talking point. So, my views on atheism. What are my views? How do I think the atheist movement is doing right now? What do I think it's going to benefit in the long run, right? How is atheism going to look in the future, and so on and so forth? So let's just jump right into it. At this very moment, I find the atheist movement has kind of stagnated itself. It kind of like went into, it's very difficult to state, but at least the way that I see it or perceive it at this very moment, I see a sense of stagnation. And the reason why is that I think that there's a lot of people talking about the contradictions within the Bible itself, which I think is a necessary thing to do. But at the same exact time, we're not really giving anything more than that. We're not really delving into anything more than that. And I think that is the problem in and of itself, is what can we bring as atheists, as secularists, as skeptics to the table when it comes not just to worldviews, but to our own potential future, in a sense. What would be something that would be beneficial for future generations to come? And I think that's the thing that a lot of theists have that's on their side, is that they already know what they want. They already know what they're going to give to future generations, right? And that is this works of literature, which are meant to literally control the individual into how they do things, what is the right way of living, and so on and so forth, who's your enemy, who's not your enemy, all the rest of this stuff, which obviously people do have a huge problem with it. But at the same time, people could also cherry pick within the book itself into wondering, into creating their own worldview. Now the question is that what does atheism and what do secularists and everything like that put on the table? What are we putting on the table, which is a necessity that is needed for the movement to continue to move forward, right? So yes, we can shout down at the theists. Yes, we can say that their morals and their values aren't necessarily correct and everything, and I would completely agree with that. Oh, by the way, before I continue, how are you doing, Linear, and how are you doing, Titan? I hope you're both doing well tonight. And thank you for coming on, and thank you for watching this. But I do believe that what we really should do is look at how we can bring something forward. What is our reasoning for being atheists in the first place? And what can we bring to the table, right? And I think that's the point of view that certain atheists aren't thinking of. They like to smash down on theists and the theist worldview, which I think is unnecessary. But then we leave what happens to the future to an I don't know necessarily. And I think that is a problem, because we need to be more assured of the future. We need to look at the future and say, this is what we want to create, right? This is the world that we are aiming for. But at this very moment, I don't find that the atheist movement delves into that. I think that we like talking politics, but we talk about politics on a surface level. We don't necessarily delve deeper into the political meat and potatoes of the situation. I think that is where we run foul, in a sense. The other thing, and look at the trees. Welcome in, my friend. How are you doing? I also think the other thing is that I find that the atheist movement doesn't necessarily hold on to like my worldview must be the worldview that wins out, in a sense. I think that a lot of atheists are kind of like, well, I'm okay with the circumstances that we're living in at the moment, right? Like, as long as I'm not being persecuted against, in a sense, I'm okay with that type of thing. So we can have conversations with theists and everything like that, and we're okay because we live in the West. However, I think the major issue is that we're not really fully foundationalized, in a sense, within our worldview. And we kind of put things forward, but we're not really sure about what we're putting forward, right? Like, a lot of times there's I don't knows that come about. And don't get me wrong, it's understandable why there would be I don't knows. But the problem is that when you have theists that are more assured of themselves, of the proper way of living, for instance, now we run into a problem because the I don't know loses value compared to the I know, right? So that's the massive understanding that we sometimes, I think that atheists miss also, is that we really want to be, what's the word I'm looking for? We want to be skeptic even within our own thought process, but that in and of itself lessens our state of assuredness, and that lessening of the state of assuredness shows everybody else who's on the fence kind of like, they're not really sure what they're talking about, right? So maybe I'll believe in something that's I'll stay as a theist, or I'll be a theist on my own, or I'll create my own theism out of my own ideas, in a sense, right? Or I'll be a spiritual atheist, in a sense. And for me, I find that at least for me, I'm not saying that everybody else who wants to be a spiritual atheist are not atheists. I would never state that, but I would state that there's a contradiction within spiritual and atheist, in my opinion. Because if you are spiritual and you believe in soul, or you believe in reincarnation, or you believe that, I don't know, there's some sort of quantum consciousness or something along those lines, where when we really delve into what atheism is supposed to be, it's supposed to be skepticism, but not just skepticism. It's also supposed to be looking at the facts which are there. Right. And if there is no soul, for instance, and no matter how hard we look at the, how could I say it, at the experimentations that are being done at this very moment, based on do humans have souls or not, and so on and so forth, and prior experience, not experiences, but experiments that have been done based on these type of questions, then in the end, what we really find out is that we should be highly skeptical even of our own spiritual references and everything like that. And through our skepticism of that, we should really, instead of trying to embrace it, we should say, I will put this on the back burner. I will not believe in this because there's no evidence in order for me to really delve into this, right? And that's the one thing. I know a lot of atheists would disagree on me with this point. And I'm on you. I want to be somebody that people disagree with on this particular value, because I don't think that atheists should be following some sort of line, right? Following some sort of party line that, well, an atheist is only this or whatever. However, I do think that we should have our own independent thought processes of what atheism should be. But at the same time, which is kind of a contradiction in and of itself, allowing, right, a united front for atheists to come about, right? Now, that's the point that I'm going to delve into at this very moment, is that when we really look at atheism thus far, we've gotten pretty damn far with what we've done. And I think that we have made a massive impact on making people question the very thing that they believe. And I think that is a beautiful thing that atheism and let alone secularism has helped to bring forward onto the world stage. Why do you believe this? What is the justification and ramification of believing in this? Um, but all that just being stated, that is not strong enough, in my opinion, in order for us to be disunited, because already there's so many of these small groups which are out there, these small atheist groups that are on the outskirts, that are on the fringes, that they are isolated, and they themselves dislike the atheists that are within the in group, and even the atheists within the in group are despising each other as well in certain instances, right? And the question is that are we going to how are we going to necessarily um, overcome this? How can we overcome this, right? If we can't overcome this disunitedness, then just like how the age-old saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall. And the reality is that if we continue to be disunited, the more we're going to start seeing individuals kind of leaving the atheistic worldview and really delving into other spiritual practices, which in and of itself is a hindrance, in my opinion, to a secularized worldview, or they're going to jump right back into their own believing, right? They're going to jump right back into the belief that they left beforehand. And if that is the point, if that is the outcome, then we have failed as, or at least in my opinion, we have failed as atheists in order to create that foundation that keeps people more assured of their worldview or of the atheistic worldview, whatever that worldview may be. Before I continue, I'll just look at the chat because I don't want you guys to think that I'm just doing this one-sided monologue here. So let's delve into this. My channel, hold on, I'll put this on the screen. Okay, my channel focuses on exclusive teaching of outdoor skills to the LGBTQIA community and atheists and minority groups. That's actually really freaking amazing. Look at the trees. That's awesome, dude. That's freaking awesome. And how long have you been doing this for? Or how long has your channel been going and promoting this type of community work, if you don't mind me asking? So, how is your movement going to unite atheists? Linear, that is a fantastic question. And literally, it's going to be very rigorous. It's going to be a rigorous ideal that needs to be put forward consistently, because there's going to be people who are going to disagree with me. And that's perfectly fine. But that's the thing, is that I need to create arguments in order to actually have people start seeing that, okay, a united front is better than a disunited front. So how am I going to do this? The first thing is that we need to have a foundation or whatever. So a foundation doesn't mean like a party line. What it means is that there's at least a certain amount of ground that somebody can stand on that they feel secure based within the worldview, right? So that's something that is mostly encompassing what most atheists would feel would be the benefit of their solidarity, in a sense. It's not necessarily talking about forcing individuals to follow any type of lines, but what we are trying to do is stating, like, look at what we have here. It is much more secure than what is happening in other groups and everything like that, where there's really this rupturing within these groups and inside rupturing amongst these groups as well. So I think the first thing that we would definitely promote would be a sense of a freedom of speech, right? Because that is something that I think is necessary in order for an atheistic movement to really flourish. Because we shouldn't just have a party line, we should have something that helps build upon the atheistic movement that we already have, right? And make it better by future generations coming in and stating, okay, well, they started it off, but from now we can build other attributes to the movement itself in order to make it better than what the movement was beforehand. So I think that is one of the things that I really want to try to focus on, and everything like that I really want to focus on is that freedom of speech. The next thing, hold on, I just realized that my camera is a little messed up. Come on, camera, focus. Focus on me, camera. Okay, there we go. We're slowly but surely starting to get focused on here. All right, let me just check out the chat really quick. My apologies. So since December 2019, that is amazing. Look at trees. You got, and how many subscribers may, if you don't mind me asking, because that's really something that I think is necessary within the atheistic movement, is being in tune with the outdoors. I think is really going out and experiencing life rather than sometimes being inside and not really experiencing that much. Like to really go out and to explore and to be one with nature in a certain aspect. So I think that is a huge aspect for the atheistic movement. 127, that is amazing. Continue the great work, seriously. My channel focuses on trying to get subs without producing content. Right? At least. Touch grass heathens. That is correct. We are just touching grass constantly. Just going outside, taking a flower, sniff it, then rolling around in the grass. That's what we want to do. I'm kidding. But all in all, I think what needs to happen is that, and I think that's the other aspect that I was going to bring up, is being more being more of a community that does things on the outside, right? Like so much, because I think that atheists have a great presence online. One of the best presence, I think, is atheism online. But atheism outside, that's where we're kind of hindered in a sense, because we see that there are apologists that are outside trying to convert individuals and everything like that. But I think what atheists kind of need is kind of like that street epistemology in a sense, just like how certain individuals really delved into, where it's kind of like we can have these discussions on the outside and really start tackling theists outdoors and everything like that. Because I think that would be hugely beneficial when it comes to a type of social movement. Because online it's beautiful, but outdoors we got to be a lot more active, I think. I have 233 subs by promising. I have 233 subs by promising people I won't annoy them. That's great. I was tackle them outdoors with a stick. Yes, exactly. No, I'm kidding. But all in all, I think that's where the discussion needs to go. The other thing where I think the discussion needs to go is creating community centers. I think that, again, atheists, even though that we do have churches in a sense, like the Church of Heathens, or just like what T-Jump has created as well, a type of skeptic church and stuff. But I think that misses the point. I think what people really want is they don't want something that's rigorous. They want something where people can come together as a community and just have conversations, not just about atheism, but about a plethora of other things, having outdoor activities and stuff like that, which community centers could really bring forward and everything towards that extent. And I think through having these community centers, we can have much more of an impact in our society, right? Because at this very moment, we really just have, as I stated beforehand, online, and that's predominantly it. And even these churches which are there are not necessarily taken seriously with the outside communities. So what we need to do, or what I think we need to do, is create these community centers which are actually showing, I don't know what happened there, but showing people and religious individuals what atheists are really about in their not personal lives, but I mean with a community in a sense, and that they'll slowly start to see that we're not just people who just swing at theists and everything like that. We have much more than just that. And I think that will start changing people's minds. People will slowly start to see what atheists and what secularism truly has to offer. And I think that's something, definitely myself, as a skeptic and as an atheist, I really want to create these community centers. And that's what this show and everything like that is really trying to provide, is this new way of looking at atheism, this new way of being more direct, but not just direct, but also helping atheists that might feel that, okay, I only have the online world, I don't have the outside world, and henceforth I still feel depressed because like I don't feel like I can express myself, right? And all of a sudden now you have these community centers which can actually help you express yourself even more, right? And not just as an atheist talking about theism, but also as a community, getting together, doing things together, doing outdoor activities, doing indoor activities, all these things. And this is the thing that I want to promote within our communities, is let's focus on the outside. Let's not just focus on the inside with online and everything like that. We need to be we need to have much more of a presence on the outside. Let me just jump back into the chat very quick. I also have a Pastor Blaster segment where I react to old Baptist preacher sermons. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. That's pretty cool too. So I can basically make content if I... That's awesome. So now, the other thing that I would want to really touch base on is this pushback from philosophical atheists, in a sense, and sometimes even scientific atheists or scientific secularists and philosophical secularists, trying to keep away from the actual atheist movement itself because they feel that this new atheism is a hindrance on the atheistic movement. And I think that these philosophers and these scientists aren't winning the point. They aren't necessarily seeing the point. They need to be part of the group, in a sense, but not because they need to tote the party line. What they need to do is help individuals look at things philosophically, right? Look at things scientifically. If somebody makes a mistake, to correct that mistake and say, okay, you're seeing things in a wrong way. Look, try looking at it in this way. And that's the number one thing with communities. There will always be clashing. But the one thing is that there needs to be a mediator who is able to say, okay, the clash has gone on for too long. Let's see how we can repair this properly so that we can work together. Through working together, we could be more of a force against the theist and against the apologist. Because at this very moment, even though the apologists in and of themselves, they don't necessarily have they don't have good philosophical arguments, they're still winning out, sadly, because we're just fighting amongst ourselves way too often. And we need to start changing that in order becoming a united front. So I would actually send out the bat call, in a sense, and ask the philosophical atheists and the scientific atheists to please not try to push the layman atheists to the side because they think that they're too irrational or anything like that, but to try to come out and help the movement become more rational, in a sense, if it can be done. And I think that's something that we also need to focus too, is that we shouldn't necessarily shout down people who are talking scientifically or philosophically also. So I also call upon the layman atheists and ask them not to be too harsh to our scientific and our philosophical atheists as well. And together we can really create, as I keep saying, a front that can really be strong and united against any type of apologist. We need to be, let me see this. We need more outspoken atheists and non-Christian people to represent us in government. Yes, Christian dominionism is taking over. I completely agree. But the one thing is that it's hard when you don't have a foundation, right? You can't necessarily have somebody who is running as an atheist when most of the United States of America, and even in Canada, for instance, would not elect an atheist into office. Wonderful phone. Thank you for ringing. So, yes, that is a huge problem that I see. And I completely agree with you, look at the trees. But at the same time, we don't have the numbers in order to sway people towards our way of looking at things. So how do we do that? We need to start thinking more and more about confronting individuals that have a different worldview and try, just like how, not Carl Sagan, I almost misspoke there. Now I forgot the damn name of the guy. But when you have worldviews in and of themselves can't easily be changed. They need to be, in certain instances, destroyed, and then through that destruction, recreated into a new idea, into a new worldview. Right? And predominantly, how does that happen is through debates. If you're able to show that the person doesn't necessarily have philosophical, scientific, or even a social ground to stand on, then slowly but surely, even within their mind, they will start to see that there's problems with the ways that they see things, and their worldview will be destroyed. And through that destruction, they themselves would recreate that worldview into the worldview that destroyed their previous worldview beforehand, right? So that's the way that we need to look at is how do we expand our worldview? How do we expand the atheistic worldview to more and more and more individuals, right? And that's the thing that really needs to start being thought of. Is what do we do in order to not propagate, but to permeate our worldview into a greater or to a greater distance than what it is right now. And again, that's what I find that the atheistic movement kind of missed, is that a lot of times we have a tendency of being together as a unit, but we're not building the we're not building the foundation which is necessary in order for people when they say, well, maybe let's try to step over onto this worldview at the moment, and they feel secure. And that's what we need to create. We need to create a foundation that people need to, not need, but people will feel secure about. I'm going to look at the comment section again and see what you guys have been stating thus far. We need, let me see this. We need an underground network of some sort. Don't admit it, perhaps until already elected, like that lady who got elected Dem and switched to Republican. Ooh, okay, interesting. But still, that would definitely be a shot in the foot, because with that type of deception, I don't necessarily think that that person would be reelected again, right? So that would be a one chance offer type of thing in order to try to prove people that as an atheist, this individual can do what they need to do in political office. And if they fail at any means, this would be another hit against us as a community. So it would literally need to be, again, tackling worldviews. Mega Wolf, what's going on? And also, welcome, Mega Wolf. Or Mega Grey Wolf. Mage Grey Wolf. I don't know what the hell I was reading. Mage Grey Wolf, welcome in. I think we should have more discussions than debates. I again, I can understand why you say that, Mage Grey Wolf, but at the same time, when we really look at how atheism grew, and definitely within the 2000s, it was through debate. It was through Christopher Hitchens debating atheists. It was through Richard Dawkins, atheists, through Christopher Hitchens debating theists. It was through Richard Dawkins debating theists, which started to really change people's minds based on theism. And that's the thing that we really need to look at with these individuals, is that debates have a purpose. And what those purposes are about is, I'm going to swing at this apology, not literally swing like violently, but I mean through our interaction, through our debate, I'm going to throw my philosophical argumentation at this person. And if this person isn't able to counter my philosophical argumentation correctly, what does that show to everybody else who's watching? It might not change the debater's mind, but what does it show to everybody else who's watching? It slowly starts to change their minds. They slowly start to wonder, shit, how could the guy that I'm putting up here, that I'm putting all my onus on to win this debate, looks like he was floundering the entire time, while this atheist is able to stand strong. And even with the philosophical redirections that the theist was shooting back at the atheist, he was able to deflect those and fire off something that was much more devastating to the theist, right? These are the type of things that really help expand atheism, is by showing that we have philosophical and let alone proper argumentations in order to uproot the theist worldview, which is now ingrained within the West. So that's the reason why, Mage Grey Wolf, I think that the are key, that we still can't have discussion, but it just means that at least at this very moment, debates will help people on the fence realize that atheism is the proper way to go. Because it has already been shown. People have already changed because they listened to debates and they listened to how the argumentation was made by the atheist compared to the theist, and they made that switch. Look at the tree. I think debate ends with both sides thinking their person won. I don't necessarily believe that because, again, as I stated, the debates that had started within the early 2000s actually showed that there was a rise within the atheistic movement and people becoming atheists. And the reason why that was because individuals really heard the argumentation that Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, and Daniel Dennett brought to the table, and it destroyed the theists in the beginning. However, the theists then delved themselves into philosophy, and through there built themselves into philosophical apologists rather than trying to debate the science just through their biblical literatures. And that's where things really started to change. And that's why atheism has reached that, what is it called? A plateau at the moment. And in a previous discussion that I had, I was talking about the individuals who were within non-affiliation. And I was also stating that non-affiliation, more people jumping into the non-affiliates does not mean that it's a win for secularism at all. It just means that there's more people leaving religions, but that does not mean that they're becoming more rational with their thought process. And that also doesn't mean that they're on your side while they're non-affiliate. So again, I do believe that debates do have a purpose, and that the purpose of debates is to change the people who are sitting on the fence. That's just me, but I think it's the debate combined with conversations afterwards. I would agree with that. But the debate in and of itself is meant to hit the apologist, right? The ones that are actually speaking on behalf of their representatives. So what I mean by that is that people follow apologists. They put all their onus into the apologists and all their hopes that their apologists will win. And likewise, if an atheist is debating a theist, and that atheist is somebody who is large within our community, let's just say, a lot of atheists will put onus onto that atheist and hope that they will debate in a way that will be logical and everything like that. And in the end, when we really look and you see the breakdown of that said debate, that's when we can see if one side or the other were using logical argumentation in order to represent their point. And from there, then conversations come about. And through those conversations, I would actually agree that that also helps people from being theists and moving into a different direction. But I would also say that atheists have also been moving into other directions as well and aiming towards theist positions. There's been a couple of atheists within just my own small community that has moved back into theism and moved back into being Christians, or moved into converting into Islam, or moved into converting into paganism and everything like that. So we're not on a winning ground, and let alone our numbers as atheists are only 5%, maybe 10% of the world's population, compared to how many of the world are either spiritualists or theists, is ridiculous. Our numbers should be much higher than it is, but it's because we predominantly hang around our own, which is fine, that we end up actually losing out on the idea of let's try to expand the idea, right? Atheism as a worldview, in my opinion, needs to be expanded. And the only way for it to be expanded is through debates or through conversation. But even through conversation, in the end, conversation becomes debate. So everything revolves back to the debate itself, and whoever has the most logical explanation for their worldview will stand, while those who have no no logical grounds will fall, and that worldview will take over in due time. We just need to have much more on our side in order for us to be able to stand above the other worldviews which are there, in my opinion, at least. And again, I'm not trying to say that you guys need to what's the word I'm looking for, that you guys need to agree with me, but I do believe that the only way for proper change to happen is for more individuals to uphold the atheistic banner. And if there's not as many that are upholding the atheistic banner, then we can't have political say so. We can't have influence. We can't protect our own worldview. But the more people who actually start joining in, the more we can have that influence, the more that we can protect our own, the more that we can actually start to look at the outside world and promote a world which is much better than the world that we live in today. And that's what I fight for. I like discussing it with you, and the chat, it's a good subject. Thank you. Look at the trees. I like discussing this with you as well, because I think as atheists, we need to look at the foundation. What is our foundation that we stand on? And if we stand on no foundation, we ourselves are doomed to fail, because we have nothing that has a sense of uniting us. And those who are just a disbelief in God, and that's the only thing that unites us, that's not a worldview. That's just a certain prospect which is there, but is nothing else. There's no meat and potatoes to the movement. And henceforth, we need to create something that is more foundational in order for it to actually have people to stand on, feel secure, and feel that if a theist comes at us with their questioning, we're able to stand on our two front legs and literally take that question and feel okay answering that question. But yes, I'm extremely happy to have this conversation with the chat. I think this is something that we need. We need this one-on-one. We need this conversation between us. And I know that there's going to be a lot of individuals who will not agree with me within our own community. But it's okay, because that's not the point. The point isn't necessarily to have 100% of atheists agree with my worldview. And that's why I have the idea of creating the atheist vanguard, in a sense, because I know that most atheists will not agree with me. Atheists, let me just see this. Atheist is only a reply to the God claim. There's no atheist worldview. Of course. But I think at the same time that we need something that has that weight, because that's the thing, the God claim, but at the same exact time it has also manifested itself into an anti supernatural claim, right? Anything to do with supernaturalism, if you're an atheist and you're like, yo, I believe in ghosts, I question you. I'm like, well, how the hell do you believe in ghosts but you're an atheist? That's a supernatural thing, but yet you're going to talk about God, say you disbelieve in God, but you believe in ghosts. There's a problem, right? If you're going to come at me and tell me that I believe in karma and everything like that, I think there's a problem, because karma is a spiritualistic aspect that actually is about a spirit that is within the person. And when the chakras align, it makes the spirit whole again, right? But again, how can we talk about spirit if we don't believe in spirit? And if you believe in a spirit, you have already put yourself within the camp that there can be a God. Because obviously, if there's one spirit, there can be a greater diviner spirit. And we end up falling into the trap. So in the end, as atheists, we look at the supernatural claim not with skepticism, but we reject it, or we at least, or at least right, I see things, we must reject it. Because if we say, well, that's possible, but God, there's no possible way that God could exist, we fall into the trap, right? Let me see. Skepticism is a separate animal from atheism, unfortunately. I think that the two are equated, because when we look at atheism, right, we are looking more at the idea of God itself and all its attributes. We're not just looking at God in a general sense, we're looking at God in the entirety of its attributes. And we are saying we don't believe in an omniscient being. We don't believe in an omnipotent being. And there's a reason why that is. Right? So, and in the end, what we end up or actually, it shouldn't even be I don't believe. It should be that I reject that. Because that's the whole entire problem. If we're not rejecting and we're even leaving open the capacity, right, of some sort of omniscient being, we ourselves fall into agnosticism, right? And from there, that's where the line is sort of crossed now. Because it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I accept that there could be a being B, but I don't accept a being A. And it's just like, but being B and being A are relatively the same. There's no differentiation between the two. Chiropractors exist. Yes, they do. Chiropractors exist. I've seen them with my own two eyes as well. They're terrifying things. but no. But all in all, and let alone what skepticism also looks down upon is pseudoscience, right? And atheism in and of itself is wrapped within skepticism, and skepticism is wrapped within atheism. That is the truth and the value, in the matter, in the value, the truth and the matter. Both are wrapped into one. But the thing is that because we look at our definitions from the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, we try to differentiate the two. But in the long run, what we really see is skepticism and atheism hold hands consistently. And that is the whole entire point that I'm trying to make here, is that we know that we reject the supernatural. We reject it because there's a much better explanation within naturalism. We reject paganism because we know that there's a better explanation through naturalism. And these are the ways that we are truly delving into our own worldviews. We utilize a naturalistic worldview through our atheism, through our ways of looking at God, looking at its attributes and saying we reject these attributes and we reject this God. And from that very moment, we ourselves put ourselves within the naturalistic camp, which then, holding hands with skepticism and atheism, say we also don't agree with spirits. We also don't agree with souls. We also don't, and it just breaks down consistently. And these are the ways that we must look at things. Because if we start looking at things as being, well, no, there has to be a soul. I don't agree with God, but there has to be a soul. Or I agree that there are demons. But no, God doesn't exist, but demons do. I'm going to look at you and be like, okay, please explain yourself, right? So that's the whole entire point that I'm trying to talk about here, is that as atheists, we also need to be skeptical of the people who are within the non-affiliate groups as well, because a lot of non-affiliates that I have spoken to have sometimes outlandish belief systems and worldviews that even I kind of take a step back and say, okay, this isn't a win for secularism. This isn't a win for naturalism. We're actually losing, and we're allowing these non-affiliates to actually change the movement from the inside. And then from that very way, you have certain individuals state, well, you can atheist your way. But how far do we allow that to go with spiritualism? It's a fine line, and it's very complex, at least for me. Let me look back into the chat, because this is not a mono dialogue. So let's look back into the chat. Dr. Robert Price would like to have a word about that. Bring it on, Dr. Robert Price. Let's speak. Let's speak. Believes everything Fox News says and simultaneously thinks Jesus is a myth. Yes, see, that is a problem. That is 100% a fucking problem. Okay. Inquires abound. This is a fantastic question. So please the group. No, not please the group. That is not what I'm saying. But we must, at the same exact time, look at skepticism and look skeptically, right, at those who are within the non-affiliate groups. Because if we're looking at non-affiliates and they believe, let's just say that, when sound power, right? Sound power, that you put water inside a wine glass and you rub the sides of it and it makes that sound. There are people within the non-affiliates that think that in and of itself gives you the ability to beat cancer. Now, you tell me, Mr. Inquires Abound, if this is something that is, let's just say, realistic to believe in, right? Should we hold these individuals with open arms and say maybe we should, everything is fine or anything like that? Or should we be a little skeptic and be like, hey, buddy, why do you believe this? This doesn't make any sense. So no, obviously I don't think that we should police the group, but I think that we should be skeptic about individuals who have outlandish ideas and they are trying to influence the group in particular ways. Or let's just say people who read tarot cards and want to, I don't know, have their day perfectly manifested, in a sense, through reading their tarot card. That's not logical. And we know this is not logical. But yet it's okay. For me, I think it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to be welcoming when people have outlandish ideas and think that this is a benefit for atheism, agnosticism, secularism. It's not. At least in my opinion. But hopefully, Inquires Abound, I hope I answered your question. And if you have any more questions, please hit me up. Oh, no, wait. Yes. Yes, do police the group. Okay, Titan has a different idea. He thinks that the group should be policed. And Look at the Trees, I believe, is in the same camp. We should police our community, I think. If there's an atheist bigot, we should boot them out and ostracize them. Interesting. But I think what we should also do is look at the individual and see if they cannot be included into the group, but reject their bigoted ways. I think that if somebody is a bigot, right, and we already know when we're dealing with theists that there are theist bigots that are out there. We sometimes even talk to theist bigots in order for them to understand that their worldview is incorrect. And I think that we must do the same exact thing with the atheist bigot and try to, if they're too far off their rockers, then I think yes, push them aside and say, I'm sorry buddy, but you're out your damn mind. But if they do start to relent and they're saying, you know what, I think my idea was a bit out there and thank you for actually talking with me and telling me that this is the circumstance, then I think that we should do everything within our power to try to change people's minds. Okay, let's look back into the comment section. Where the hell am I? Okay, I'm right here. It's not gatekeeping or purity testing to call out bad ideas. I completely agree, Titan. It's literally what we do, and we must be as assiduous doing so in our ranks as elsewhere. I completely agree with you, Titan. Fantastic point. Those of us who work on this in the background added 4 names just this week. Oh, really? If you don't mind, like either on Discord or whatever, if you can send them my way, just so that I can be in the know-how of what's going on. Because obviously, I just want to be sure that I'm not adding somebody who's done some outlandish stuff, you know? So that would be of great help. Christopher Stum, how are you doing, my friend? And welcome. I am so glad that you're here. 4 is a lot. Much lot. I would agree. Well, I mean, actually, 4 compared to a whole community, I'm not necessarily sure if that's a lot, but I understand what you mean. I understand. It can be iffy. It can definitely be iffy. Inquires abound. You have asked something new. If outlandish beliefs reassure them and helps them get through the day, why should they be stopped? The tarot reader is significantly different from the glass sound person. Absolutely. They are both different, but at the same exact time, if they are on YouTube, right? Like the number one thing is that I don't mind if you have a personal belief and you keep that personal with yourself. Fine. But if you are trying to ally yourself with atheists and then come on to a show and say, well, look at how I get my day done is through my tarot cards and I put down the skeleton of house or whatever the hell the situation is. And that means that I need to make my bed 3 times a day or some bullshit or whatever. What do you think that influence will have on other individuals? Other people will be like, yo, he or she might be onto something, and maybe I should follow her as well because she must know something that I don't. And right there, we are deluding our own members and deluding people who are on the fence by getting rid of outlandish ideas and then bringing in new outlandish ideas. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, call out bad ideas. All right, Linear. Yeah, call out bad ideas and let people at least try to adapt first before booting them. Completely agree. 100% agree. Let's see this. Wow, you guys are like popping up questions left, right, and center. I can't even. Okay, inquires abound. Why not get help? Get them help, or come to the middle. I would rather get the person help because I think if we go to the middle, the thing is that we are also stating that it's okay for them to permeate or propagate these ideas, and that in and of itself harms the movement itself. Because other people are like, look, see, everybody else is trying to accommodate these individuals, and henceforth might be swayed by these individuals' ideas. This is not something that we want. So I would say get them help, yes. But to meet in the middle, I don't think is the best idea. Uh, it's better for people to seek reassurance and guidance in the real instead of diluting themselves. Least in my opinion, believing in nonsense is just a band aid. Damn right. Yes, Linear. Completely agree. So, what's the standard? The standard would predominantly be philosophical verification. What you want to do is delve into, is your belief not just verifiable, but does it have any realm within philosophy, within science, within um, because I don't want to say within the real, because what does that even mean? What is the real? But what I would say is at least what we believe must show by what the information is stating. And if the information is stating something completely different compared to what that person is stating, we're not on the right ground. We're not. Or we're not in the right grounding, I should say. Let me see this. Oh yeah, definitely leave room for apologizing and reacceptance. Absolutely look at trees. Completely agree. Uh the middle between Black Lives Matter and they were better off slaves. Damn. Whoever stated that, there is no middle. Unless like they can recant. If they can recant through logic, recant those statements, based on they're better off as slaves, recant that statement, then yes, there can be some sort of uh, reinstatement back into the group. But I think that if they were stating that, oh no, they're better off as slaves and they're not relenting, yeah, I would agree that there's no middle and push those individuals to the side because they're only going to hurt the movement more. Clarification. What is outlandish, non outlandish? The standard to base the judgment from. Well, I think I've already stated that. The outlandish, in and of itself, at least to me, is if somebody is a tarot reader but also wants to be acclaimed as a rationalist or a naturalist. If somebody listens to the sound of water inside a wine glass and you touch the ends and make that sound that it makes, and you think that you can cure cancer through that, and you think you are a naturalist, there's another thing coming. Those type of ideas. And definitely another outlandish thing is outwardly being racist to minority groups as well, just like how Titan stated. Because that in and of itself, after a while, becomes a huge problem within the movement itself, because then individuals could start poisoning the well. And when people start poisoning the well, the movement is not going to grow, it'll stagnate. So, yes, those are outlandish ideas, in my opinion. Now, the question is, what can be considered as racist? Well, then again, what Titan stated right here at the end of his statement, they were better off as slaves or something like that, and the person actually believes that, that's bigoted. That is a huge problem. That is an outlandish statement. Clarification. Oh, I just went right back to the same question. Okay. The middle between trans rights are human rights, and they are abominations that must be destroyed. Very good idea. Again, a really good statement that you made. Yes, there is not really a middle between those two statements, right? And I completely agree. Oh, 4 in 1 night. Yeah, okay, that is a lot. That is a lot of people being a lot of people out there. Excuse me. From those two comments, Titan Uranus suggests a standard, but not sure if this gentleman agrees. No, I agree with what Titan is stating, but at the same exact time, I guess mine also goes into the minute as well. Whereas you would state that maybe somebody who's a tarot card reader that gets their day organized through tarot card reading, right, would be okay for you because that is how they get through their day and they feel more reassured that their life is ordered or organized or whatever the hell the situation is, right? But for me, I find, just like how Linear stated, that at least when we look at things through a rational or a natural lens, I think that is a better type of how could I say it? A better way to reassure oneself. Because now you're dealing within the realm of naturalism rather than within the realm of spiritualism, which then can lead to spiritual crisis, which then can lead to people doing horrendous things because they feel that their spiritualism is lacking because they're not following the text to a T, or they think that, I don't know, people who are born, let's just say, on people who are Sagittarius are enemies to the rest of the whatever the hell it's called, the I keep thinking Zoroastrian, which is not at all the case. The zodiac, right? People who are born Sagittarius are enemies to all the rest of the other individuals on the zodiac board or whatever the hell it is. And then you run into problems again, right? So again, we need to look at spiritualism against or naturalism against spiritualism, at least in my opinion. There's no middle ground. Centrist sucks. Right? But that's political context. Yeah, that's true. I think I wrote the wrong word. Oh no, did I state your word wrong? Oh, damn. Titan, you are absolutely right. Everything is political at the end of the day. Sometimes I wish it wasn't, but it's true. Everything becomes political at the end of the day. And it is definitely stressful. One must always watch themselves before they speak, because just that one word can then lead you down a whole rabbit hole of just craziness. So yes, everything is politics at the end of the day. So we must be feminists? Hell yeah, hell's yes. I mean, because that's the thing. I'm in line with the old age feminist, right? Not old age, but I mean classical feminism in a sense, because I find that classical feminism really does mold what feminism was supposed to be, and that was a single-lined. What would be the word for it? Not similarity. Come on, brain. Gee. Women would be on par with men. Like, that was classical feminism. That is like, let us vote, let us work, let us do exactly what you do, in a sense. And that I'm perfectly fine with. Classical feminism, let's go. Let's do it. But by middle, I mean meet the person in the middle to get them to feel comfortable changing. Absolutely. I think that that's something that is needed, but at the same time, I think that the work needs to be put in. If you're just going to the middle just to be like, oh, okay, you don't need to change, but I'm just here to show you that then I'm going to stand with you, but I'm not going to have a conversation to be like, why do you believe in this or whatever? Then we ourselves have betrayed ourselves, right? Like, the person needs to meet us in the middle too. If we're the only ones going to the middle and the person's like, no, I'm not moving from this part or whatever, it's like, all right, then I'm going to move right back to where I was beforehand, and you can stay your ass over there in Looney Tune land, right? Let me see this. Firebrand Atheist, welcome. You're talking about skepticism, not atheism. There are no movements in atheism. It makes no claims. Humanism, etc., are movements. Absolutely, but you also need to not you need to understand, but there's also a tendency between the two coming together. An atheist is a skeptic and everything like that, because the thing is that we're not just atheists just based on God. It's based on the claims and attributes of that said God as well, that we are atheist over. An omni-God, for instance, we are atheists over, but that's also aligned with skepticism. Skepticism and atheism hold hand in hand together. Right? But I would agree that atheism isn't a movement, is a negation of a God. But I think that in and of itself, because it's a negation of even the attributes of a God, we end up seeing that atheism and skepticism hold hand in hand, are more similar than dissimilar from each other. New atheism isn't a movement. Inquires abound. I would completely agree. It is not a movement. It's well, no, I can't say that actually. Let me recant. I somewhat agree that it's a movement, but I also see it not as a movement because they are building communities. New atheists have built communities, but the problem is not just the communities of the new atheists, but they don't necessarily think about the future of things. They're more in line with fighting against the theists based on the disbelief of a deity rather than delving into the meat and potatoes of the fight, which is what is our fundamentals and everything like that, and why people should become atheists in the first place, right? Or what is the benefit of being an atheist in the first place, I should say. All right, look at the trees. I think women deserve equality, freedom of choice for their own body. That's feminism, right? Yes, it is. You're on the feminist train, my friend. Uh, that's what I was saying, Firebrand. Okay, cool. Cool, 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 cool. Let's see if there's anything else. Sure. Okay. How are people supposed to vet the people? Um, Very good question. Is keeping your eyes open, keeping your eyes open based on questionable things that individuals say. And that doesn't mean that you got to jump on the person immediately or whatever, because people can say things as a joke and they're not actually intending to hurt anybody with that joke. And then you don't want to be somebody who's going to be constantly on to the person, be like, what the hell did you say? Or anything like that. Like, you want to see a pattern within a person. You don't want to just see one off, because if somebody makes a joke and they thought that, oh, I'm just going to be a little risque or whatever, I'm not going to be somebody who's going to be over you being like, that's it. Like, no, I'm not going to be that person. But if I'm seeing a constant pattern of something that I find is extremely questionable, you damn right I'm going to pull you over and be like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? Like, let's relax. Right? Exactly, Titan. Vigilance is key. Let's see over here. Some people also feel reassured thinking they're the superior race, but sometimes being reassured just doesn't cut it. Beautifully stated, Linear. Beautifully freaking stated. Completely agree with that. Damn right, astrology is nonsense. You can trust me on this. I'm a Virgo. That's nice. I like that. Um, let's see if there's anything here. Not sure I agree. Everything is politics. Okay, Mage Gray Wizard. If you have Wolf Wizard. What the hell was I reading? Mage Gray Wolf. Please, like, because that's the thing. I think that when we have a conversation, right, even through our conversations which we have, they have political ramifications, right? It already puts you on the side politically of either right or left based on how you state what you're actually stating. And from there, that in and of itself creates a problem, right? Because right there, it indicates that everything is politics, just based from the words coming out of your mouth automatically diverges from each individual into their distinct area within the political realm. If that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. Josh likes Golden Girls. Good one. Love it. Everybody loves Golden Girls. Damn right. What is this supposed to be about? You mean the conversation in and of itself? The conversation is supposed to be my views on the atheistic movement thus far. And I've already discussed that beforehand, but now I'm just tackling what is being written within the comment section, because I don't want this to be a monologue. I don't want to be the only one stating things while everybody else is sitting here listening to my words or anything like that. Like, I want to also be inclusive to the individuals that are within the comment section. But yeah, all this was based on my point of view of atheism. Where am I going? Probably the title of the video. That's right. Goddamn right, Titan Dorothy in the streets. Freaking love it. I mean, I do find that atheism. Oh, right. I do find that atheism and skepticism are hand in hand with each other, because I think what they end up being is that you can't be an atheist without being a skeptic, and you can't necessarily be a skeptic without being an atheist, right? Because or you can be an agnostic and a skeptic as well. So that is true. And yes, there is certain theists that can have a skeptical range to them. So okay, I would agree with that. But at the same time, I have a feeling that when you're looking at God's attributes, right, those are the things that an atheist or atheism and skepticism hold hands with, right? Is that I don't agree with that attribute, I don't agree with that attribute, I don't agree with that attribute. All of a sudden, atheism and skepticism is hand in hand, right? And I think that on a consistent basis, what we see is atheism and skepticism being consistent, because one of the main reasons why we don't believe in God, or I shouldn't say main reason, but one of the reasons why we don't believe in God is because God is. Yeah, I'll come back to that. Inquirers abound, but where was I? Right. Sorry about that, guys. So all I'm just trying to say is that when we look at skepticism and atheism, and even skepticism with agnosticism, they are both kind of like one-on-one towards a certain extent. Let's look at this. I fundamentally don't know, perhaps even that I do not know anything. Shocking, Joshua, I know. Right? I guess in the end of the day, like, that's all you can relatively say is like, I don't know. But I mean, at least through some sort of it's difficult, because when we start talking about things that starts to be attributed by metaphysics, it starts to be very difficult to really see the line, in a sense, within the sand. And I think that with certain statements that individuals make, I think that we can be more assured of ourselves that certain statements that people make, or certain statements or belief systems that people have, I should say, do not have as much rigor within looking for their verification as certain individuals do. Now, that's also equated with atheists as well. I would also agree. But I have a feeling when we start asking about some sort of supernatural entity and we ask, well, what is the supernatural? And we hear something or hear people stating the supernatural is something that is not natural, I start to question. Or definitely when it comes to tarot card reading or mind reading or what the hell are those people called again that look into glass balls and talk about your future and stuff like that? I forget what they're called. But yeah, those type of individuals, I think we can be more assured that they're not that their worldview is not really based on certain verification or verificationism, at least. Through the power of academic skepticism, everything is unknowable, right? Exactly. Skeptic theists. Yes, there's actually such a thing as skeptic theists, or theists that don't look necessarily at the attributes of God in and of themselves, but they look at the language which talks about God in a sense. And through the language which is being utilized, they then feel that they have justification in order to believe in the deity through the language that they use, but it has no verification to it whatsoever. And they are more online with skepticism based on the more classical theistic approaches when it comes to philosophy. Sort of like Wittgen's, for instance, who was a great skeptic when it came to God's attributes and stuff like that. He wasn't necessarily for what's the word I'm trying to look for? For the thank you, Linear. Yes, fortune teller was what I was trying to say beforehand. But yeah, so he was more Wittgen's was more of a skeptic theist. So he was still a theist, but he kind of looked down on the analytical or philosophical analytics of God's attributes, in a sense. Or not in a sense, but he didn't see the analytical approach as the right approach of validating God. It was through words rather than, and word game or word language game rather than sort of like the cosmological argument or the ontological argument. Then we can just continue through all the rest of these other arguments, even the argument from evil or the problem of evil. Wittgens didn't look at that. He mostly looked at language game in order to validate his belief in God. So he was a skeptic. Oh no, you can fail to believe in a deity without possessing any notable degree of skepticism. You know what? I would actually agree with that. And that would be contradicting my statement I just made. Or not just made, but the statement I made beforehand. It would kind of be a contradiction to that. But I think that certain people come to or look at atheism through an irrational lens because they left their religion through emotional reason, and they haven't necessarily thought of a logical reason why they left in the first place. And through that, we end up falling on our sword in a sense, because it is easier for us to be pulled away from the naturalistic perspective, for instance, if we only leave through irrational reasons, through emotional reasons, we can then be pulled away. But if we have logical reasons why we are atheists, it is much harder for us to be pulled away or led back into the delusion of theism, in a sense. I shall potentially continue to stumble as I grope for steady stones to stand on, as I sift for knowledge, if possible, in the nebulous river of existence. Is that a oh my God, what's his name again? Deepak Chakra, Deepak Chakra, or whatever the hell his damn name is, statement, because that was a nice statement, and I was about to props that, but I don't know if that was a Deepak Chopra, that's his name, statement or not. So I'm gonna keep my praise aloof at this very moment. Let me go over here. You said earlier that maybe the only thing we can say is I don't know, but much earlier you also said we can't really do that because people will mostly want to go with the people who know, right? It's good, very good point. So yeah, I did contradict myself. Very good point. Um, but I think in the long run, what like that is the aspect and the kind of weakness that I was speaking about beforehand, right? Was that we ourselves, it's 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 sometimes it's better to say that we know, which is sad because it then has the force to show people that okay, this is the way to go. But sometimes it's even better to say I don't know as well with certain instances, and be okay with being in some sort of state of ignorance. But I think in the long run, because the way that I see with atheism as being something as a, or maybe not atheism, maybe I should say naturalism. I think that naturalism in and of itself needs to have some sort of assuredness to it, right? And through that assuredness, we can then hopefully create a better world than the world that we have now. And hopefully, maybe a world with less suffering in it than the world that we have now as well, through through naturalistic perspectives. But in the end of the day, it is true that there are certain things that aren't known, and through those things that we're not sure about, and definitely when it comes to the cosmos in and of itself, we should always hold to the newest amount of information that we get and not necessarily be assured necessarily that there's only one way for certain things to come about. Though I would say that it's easier for us to look at a naturalistic perspective than any type of supernaturalistic or even some sort of supernatural deity that brought all this about. I think, again, the naturalistic perspective wins again and again and again through its simplicity. And through that, we have that upper hand in a sense. But that's just my view. That's just my standpoint. But anyways, this is getting to the hour and 30 mark, so I will need to end this show. But I do really want to thank every single one of you for coming on by and to having such a great conversation with me. And I'm happy that there were people that didn't agree with me, because I don't want to have a group that is predominantly just yes people. I want people to debate me on my point of view, because maybe I might change my point of view if you have a more logical argument than the argument that I'm using. So that is the most beautiful thing that I could think of for any type of group, is to have people that are not just for your statement, but actually look at what you're saying and state, hey, there's something wrong here. So again, thank you all so much for being here with me. It was a fun night. Tomorrow, actually, I'm having a debate with Greg, and we're going to be talking about, is the Christian God the tri-omni God? That's going to be a really good conversation. So if you want to come by at 9 p.m. tomorrow on Sunday, we will be having that debate. So it's going to be fun. Again, I also want to thank all of you for coming by and really supporting and subscribing to the Atheist Uprising channel, because it means so much to me. because like that's the thing that I want to do, is have great conversations with viewers such as yourself. And a lot of the people that are in the chat are individuals I who I've had conversations with before on other channels and everything. And I really do appreciate all of you for being here again, and for really just listening and having a great conversation with me. So I really do appreciate that. And another thing that I would like to say is have a great night. And I really hope that you guys have a great sleep, or if it's in the morning, have a great day. And I will see you tomorrow. As for now, see you later, and let the revolution commence.